Hey everybody, movie review next door here, and I'm back with another review. Called out sick from work, I got through like 2.5 hours of work and couldn't do it because my stomach, I think I have a stomach bug or something. So I decided to try to chill out with the movie, and I watched Shotgun Wedding. This is an action comedy romance film directed by Jason Moore. Came out in 2022, and it stars Jennifer Lopez, Josh Duhamel, Jennifer Coolidge, Sonia Braga, and Cheech Marin. In this film, Darcy and Tom gather their families for the ultimate destination wedding, but when the entire party is taken hostage, Till Death Do Us Part takes on a whole new meaning in this hilarious, adrenaline-fueled adventure as Darcy and Tom must save their loved ones if they don't kill each other first. So, what did I think of Shotgun Wedding? Well, this is a movie I was kind of looking forward to, and if I can say anything about my hype for this movie, I was looking forward to it because I like Jennifer Lopez in this type of role. I think she was really good in it enough. Um, there was some other movie that she was in where she was a badass, but I can't think of it right now. But I also like Josh Duhamel, and I like a lot of the supporting cast in this. This is one of those films that I feel doesn't really get its footing until about the second half of the film because I think the second half of the film is where it gets a lot better. Um, but overall, it's a decent watch. I know I've been given a lot of decents, but I can't really give this a 6 because there are things that I do think it does pretty well. So, decent. But let me get to the cast. Jennifer Lopez as Darcy, she's the bride to be. She's pretty good. I usually like her. I think she's a pretty decent actress. I definitely think when you write an interesting character for her, she can really go for it. And it seems she likes this character too because she produced the film. So nice to see her here. Josh Duhamel as Tom, the groom to be. Sorry about the light. I'm doing this in the daytime for once. Um, he's one of those actors that a lot of people on Letterboxd reviewing this film seem to hate. I don't really hate him at all. I usually quite like him. I've seen him in quite a few films, and I've never really hated him in any of them or like disliked him. I've always thought he was a pretty decent actor. And here I think he's an interesting character. It's not just a copycat of like other male characters in other movies, I guess. So it was nice to see that. Jennifer Coolidge plays Carol, who is Tom's mother. A lot of people say that she stole the show. She is pretty funny at times. There are jokes that go on a bit too long with her at times, but she's fine. I'm usually a bit one way or the other with her, but Sonia Braga as Renata, she is Jennifer Lopez's character's mom, Darcy's mom. She's fine. She's not given a ton to do. And Cheech Marin as Robert, who is Jennifer Lopez's father. I do wish he got a bit more comedy, like a few more comedic lines for this, because you get a comedian like Cheech Marin and you don't really give him a lot of comedy. So I'm a bit weirded out by that. But yeah, this video probably won't be long. A, because I'm not feeling the greatest still. I just wanted to get this done because I do need to take a nap or something, or just lie down. But this film, it's not terrible. It really isn't. It's one of those movies that people hate because it's a straight to streaming movie. And while it does show the limitations of its budget at times. There isn't a listed budget, but I can guess it's somewhere around like 20 million, something like that. This film doesn't have the best green screen. There's a moment where a character has a parachute pulled while they're on the back of a boat and it looks really bad. There is a bit where they are um, using a zip line that looks really bad. There's a bit later with a makeshift zip line that looks pretty bad. So for the most part, the green screen is not the greatest. When it's just them on the island, like pretending that the set is like an island, which they do that pretty well. It's just like during the action scenes, quite a few times, the green screen just is very obvious, or blue screen, whatever it was. Um, Another big issue I'd say with this film is the execution of the comedy. Now, I say execution because the type of comedy in this film is not the issue, because this type of comedy is in a lot of films like this. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Killers with Katherine Heigl and Ashton Kutcher, Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, Keeping Up with the Joneses with Zach Galifianakis and Isla Fisher. It's in a lot of this type of film, this romantic comedy mixed with an action film, so you can get all of the couples to watch the film together. And a lot of these movies make quite a bit of money. And uh, I'm usually into this type of movie. I remember really liking Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I actually love Night and Day. I think it is just such a fun kind of spoof on spy movies and a spoof on Tom Cruise's characters a lot of the time with how perfect he is in all these situations. Killers is fun. It has its issues. Ashton Kutcher's acting could use help, and Katherine Heigl could have been more of a character than just shrieking all the time. Uh, Not that it's like, oh, I can't have a damsel in distress. It's just like it happens too often, and then there's like a really stupid change near the middle of the movie or something. But I haven't seen Keeping Up with the Joneses, but I do tend to like this type of film because I find it light, I usually find it breezy, and I usually find them to be pretty enjoyable. This film is one of the lesser ones I've ever seen of this type of mixing of genres, but thing with that is it's a lot of these types of movies tend to focus on one more than the other. Excuse me. Even though I do really, really, really like Night and Day, maybe in love even love it, it focuses a bit too much on the action at times, and there are action scenes where they weave in the comedy. No, wait. Mr. and Mrs. Smith did that. Night and Day did it really well. I'm completely confusing myself and I am so tired. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith did that where it seemed like it would just like completely go action and instead of being action and comedy. And I liked the comedy in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I just wish they mixed it a bit more and it felt a bit more light because there are moments in that film that feel like, again, I've seen like the most violent shit ever. I've seen Terrifier 2, the most violent horror movie ever, even though it's not. Um, the 80s would like to show you that. Um, but again, like moments like at the end of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the shootout in the warehouse and all that, there's maybe like a couple jokes, but it mostly just evolves into action, which I'm fine with because the action in that is well done. But if you're doing this like comedy, romance comedy and action hybrid thing, you really need to weave them together to really make it its own thing because it just kind of comes off as you're pushing both of these movies together to make one. And I think that's why Night and Day is one of my favorites of that thing of that type of film. But here again, the issue with the comedy, there are jokes that I think could work given a better director. I have not seen anything this director has done. He directed the first Pitch Perfect film and Sisters with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. The only Tina Fey Amy Poehler film I've ever seen is Baby Mama, which I thought was pretty decently funny. even though I'm not a fan of either of them. But like maybe the director of Pitch Perfect wasn't the correct choice to direct. Just my thought on that. But uh but yeah, like a lot of the jokes do fall flat for me. A lot of the humor falls flat. But it's again, it's not that the humor is not my thing. It's that it's not done well. And I know that Jennifer Lopez can do humor. I've seen her in comedic roles, which is why I'm a bit like surprised because like again, there's like a joke every so often from like a side character or sometimes a main character that got a chuckle out of me. But for the most part, the comedy is this film's main fault. The other stuff, like the action, is pretty decent stuff. There's a lot of practical stuff. There's practical explosions at times with the grenades. The Again, there is some bad CGI. There's a bit where a guy's head catches on fire that doesn't look good at all. But for the most part, it's pretty like this film kind of plays it tame. And I'm kind of I do wish it didn't feel the need to do that because it is rated R. And there's like a couple moments where it's like, oh, um, Josh Duhamel like cuts his hand accidentally while trying to break their shackles or whatever, and somebody gets hit in the head later, and it's like it it feels like barely an R. Um, it- yeah, like I've seen PG-13 movies that are more brutal than this. Red Dawn, for one. I know it's an 80s movie, whatever. 80s PG-13 is different, but still. I'm trying to make the point of this film should have gone a bit further with the violence or taken more chances with the characters because you'd expect them to like kill someone in the wedding party and they really don't. And I know that might be a spoiler, but like that's what you'd expect in a movie like this. Like it's like Die Hard on an island, I guess. If everybody wants to do that where everything is Die Hard in blank. But it really does distance itself from Die Hard. So the people who did say that it was Die Hard on an Island, shut up. But yeah, like I don't know. It's just one of those things that I was like, yeah, like I thought from the beginning I was like, there's no way that they're gonna kill anybody. There's no way because they're trying to sell this to like I don't know if it's families, but it said like young adults on the Amazon page, so it was kind of like, really? Young adults? Young adults would be into Jennifer Lopez? But yeah. Uh yeah, there's just not much to talk about with this, really. It again, not a bad movie. It's decent. It doesn't really do a lot to set itself apart from other films of its type. There's a twist, there's a character that ends up being bad and another character that ends up joining that character. And while I will say I didn't predict it. I thought something was up, definitely with these two characters, but um, I mean, I guess it was a decent twist, but yeah, there's just not much to say, and I think I could end the review right here after going through the pros and cons. But yeah, it if you're looking for like something to like maybe look at every so often at the action scenes, I guess, because the story isn't really much. It's nothing you haven't seen before, and again, it's decent because it's like well made for the most part, and the actors aren't that bad. Um, but yeah, pros again, Jennifer Lopez and Josh Duhamel are capable leads. Um, Pretty decent action for the most part. Um, Spare some bad CGI, fire and green screen. Not a bad villain, I guess. He's fine. Excuse me. They are fine because it's two of them. Uh, um, Score's fine. It's a bit generic, but it's okay. Cons, again, the way that the humor is executed doesn't really work the best, and I do wish the first half was a bit more like the second half because this film does take a bit to get going, and I do think if it got just right into the action immediately and had been a bit more action oriented, it would have been a bit of a better movie. But yeah, uh, that was my review of Shotgun Wedding. If you've seen the film and want to let me know what you thought about it, comment down below and movie reviewer next door.